I apologise in advance for my blurry old school Maplestory videos. I keep putting in the same stuff, but this is all the footage that I have surrounding old school Maple. Even though I want to try and match the footage with what I say, I don't have a lot of content and I don't particularly want to rejoin an old school server just to get this. I have to come clean and admit that I am also a bit driven by nostalgia to play old school Maple. I enjoy this feeling from time to time, and in order to preserve it, I have to remain off the game. A few people have claimed that it is going to be released around November 2025, and while I question this slightly, I won't be fussed if it got delayed another few months. Maplestory is probably the only game where I'd be happy to wait. RuneScape, however, is a game that was released in 2001, and in 2013, the developers decided to create a classic game due to its apparent declining player base. The game is based on the 2007 version, offering a nostalgic experience for veteran players, and to my surprise, that old school classic game is still quite popular. And this has made me wonder why Nexon didn't make a move similar to this. Many argue that the peak of Maplestory was also around 2007, and we sort of knew that Maplestory was eventually going to develop into something a lot bigger. So why didn't Nexon also release a classic server to preserve that original feeling? Why wait another 12 years? However, it was maybe a good thing that they didn't release it, because it probably would have flopped. They were in association with the release of Maplestory 2, and well, we all know how that turned out. By the looks of things, Nexon had it in mind to go all out into developing the current game, hence why we have been bombarded with so many classes and HUD changes. Would they have been able to give priority to Classic World and its community? Despite the attractive nature of Maplestory back in 2007, there were still a lot of issues in terms of grinding, botting, hacking, pay to win, class balance, and meso making. We had a lot of friends and dedicated a lot of time and money, and for players to all of a sudden quit the game and jump to the classic server would be a bit pointless. They would already know the hardships of what they would be tasked with, and giving up all that effort just wouldn't make sense. RuneScape was made special due to its lore and quests, and while it also had its flaws, the developers took some initiative to ensure that their classic release would be a success by taking into consideration what the community wanted and carefully planned updates. Let's just say that Nexon, on the other hand, aren't as strong in that department. I've looked at a couple of videos on YouTube about Maplestory in its current state, and if I was to jump into the game right now, my mind wouldn't be able to comprehend. It would look and feel like an entirely different game for me. Back when I played, I killed monsters like this, and to now see people killing monsters like this would overwhelm me. Also, what happened to the simplicity of scrolling items? I was only exposed to the 10%, 30%, 60, 70, and 100% scroll mechanic, but apparently items can now be enhanced, miracle cubed, hammered, given potential or bonus potential. I mean, there's nothing wrong with all this, but I grew up with a style of gameplay that looked a lot simpler and less chaotic. For people who have been around since 2005, they may not understand where I'm coming from, but it's because they've kept themselves active and up to date with all the content releases. They were able to adapt well. Most of us have been retired for several years now, and because so much time has passed and that the current Maplestory is in a somewhat unrecognizable state, it just feels like the right time to hop onto an official classic server. Okay, now there is the predicament where all of us have matured, have full-time jobs, careers, fiancés, kids, and other real-life responsibilities. So why is it the perfect time to release Maplestory Classic, you may ask? We are a lot older and don't even have time to play it. Well, that's actually a good question. I want to first address that belief where playing games at an older age is frowned upon, where people may regard you as being lazy and that you need to sort your life out. While our parents are probably the main culprits of this in instilling this way of thinking into our heads, it's currently perceived to be an outdated stereotype. We live in a period where streaming is accessible and platforms such as Twitch, Discord and TikTok promote live streams. And there are 40 to 50-year-olds right now live streaming themselves playing their favourite games. Of course, it's generally considered a natural thing for young kids and teens to play games, but given that the predicted age for Classic World's player base is to be late 20s to early 30s, I would argue that you're still quite young. In some ways, it's a bit of an advantage. We are in the early stages of our adult lives, where we can now make some responsible financial decisions. Our brains are fully developed to the point where we can process information quicker. We're more likely to think outside the box, and we won't be dumb enough to fall for the scams again, I think. And when it comes to finding time to play, this is something that will differ with everyone, but the concept is still the same. Everyone has a serious daily or weekly routine of things to do, such as going for a jog, going to the gym, music lessons, meeting up with friends, or creating a treehouse with your kids. And the same will apply to playing Maplestory. Just dedicate however much time you can and incorporate it into your weekly routines. A lot of people have been calling out for an official original server for years now, and it got me hypothetically thinking whether the COVID pandemic would have been the perfect time to release Classic World. Because funnily enough, during that time, old school private servers received a boom in users registering to play. But I again concluded that it wasn't the right time. People who registered in those servers didn't register with a true desire to want to rejoin. It was merely driven by boredom, and once life reached some normality, everyone went back to their normal lives. People were more focused on getting their personal lives back in order, and integrating some playing time on Maplestory with their new schedules just didn't seem appealing. And if Classic World was released, then it might have fallen into the same trap. I have also noticed some new servers very recently, such as Artale and Maple Lands, gaining some popularity, but that is for a separate video. Anyway, aside from that, I think our absence from the game has reached the right amount of years, not too little where playing again wouldn't feel special, but also not too long where trying to play again would feel too late. Most of us are at the stage where we are unlocking some teenage memories and that we are remembering the game for all its special qualities and not its annoying inadequacies. The amount of grinding we were made to do, Nexon, we forgive you. The amount of server lags and disconnects, we forgive you. The amount of time it took to get Arwen's glass shoe, we forgive you. The amount of pay to win, Never mind. This doesn't mean that Nexon should overlook the negatives though. Okay, yes, the announcement has piqued a lot of interest where we might rejoin, and it's all well and good me making these cheesy videos trying to hype us up. But the real question is, what are Nexon going to do to keep us?